afternoon, everyone, and welcome to edTrends. Today's topic is sustaining college and career readiness using pandemic funding. Today's session is possible through the partnership of the School of Education and the Capital Region BOCES. I'm Jerry Rivera-Wilson, Director of Professional Development and Continuing Education at the University of Albany. And my colleague, Kelly Maslin's here, from who's the Director of Education Support Services, Capital Region BOCES. I'm going to turn it over to Kelly Maslin, who will do a brief introduction of our lead presenter, Dr. Timothy Mundell, and the faculty from the Berne-Knox-Westerlo School District. And I want to thank you all for joining us today and sharing your good work.
Thank you, Jerry. And so thank you again to Dr. Tim Mundell, who again is the superintendent of schools in Berne-Knox-Westerlo, who's joined by his colleagues, Bonnie Kane, Michaela, I hope I'm saying this right, Kerner, and William Dragadas. I'm probably said that not accurately, but either way, we welcome you. We thank you for taking the time to share your information and knowledge with those of us on the phone and those who will be viewing this at a later time. So again, thank you, and we'll turn it back over to you.
So is that my cue, Kelly, to go ahead?
That's your cue to go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you to you and to Jerry and to the folks at edTrends. We appreciate the invitation to share some of the work that we're doing to support students during this particularly difficult time, as well as managing this pandemic windfall that we saw in last year's budget. Beginning last December with the CURSA money and the ARP money in the New York State budget in April. So we've been pretty methodical and determining how we're going to spend that money and invest it in the things that we need to invest it in for kids and to extend the programs that we really began creating about 6 years ago. And so today we just want to share a little bit from each of us. I'll do a little bit on my role as superintendent in kind of architecting things. And then Michaela is really, our rock star ag science teacher. And she's going to share how that program was developed and how we're extending it. And then Bill has come along. He's really a tech guru and has engaged some students in a really dynamic way. And we're supporting that work as we go forward. And really, Bonnie is going to become the catch basin for teasing out and developing all the sustainability so that it becomes a whole system for our students at Berne-Knox-Westerlo over the next few years while we have these resources available to us. So with that in mind, Bonnie, could you share your screen and put up the slides and the document, and I'll get started with what my piece is. So each of us has a key takeaway from what we're going to do today. My takeaway is around the idea of learning how to use existing staff talent and student experiences to define innovative program initiatives for our school. And it's really kind of a strengths-based idea. We realize that we have these 3 years of funding where we can spend these CURSA dollars and ARP dollars, and we really want to make the work that we've done sustainable well into the future with that funding. And we really have decided to focus on a couple of things. Well, how do we look at the talent that our staff has, and what do they bring to the table in terms of creating student opportunities? And when I arrived 6 years ago or 7 years ago now, I asked the questions of kids, what do we need? And what are you interested in doing? And what experiences do you bring to school each day? And as I looked around at our staff, I looked to take inventory of those same things. And part of how we've hired over the last several years has been with those ideas in mind. What are skills and talents that people have? What are their personal interests? And what life experiences do they bring to the table that can be usable in our system? And so with that in mind, we began to look at, well, how do we do this work? And one of the things that came out of the things that kids told us 7 years ago was there weren't enough elective courses in the program of studies guide in the secondary school. And they were interested in things like history courses and science courses. And they were interested in, we had a group of kids that were very interested in politics. And so that gave us some thoughts about creating some new courses to put on the books. But how does that become a system for kids? And one of the things that we did do was listen to their experiences in a rural community. And their experiences were around agriculture. Some have families that are in the beef industry. Some have families that are in dairy. Others just do a lot of haying and growing crops. And there's just this rural agricultural existence. And so that sparked our interest in creating just an introductory course in ag science. And that led us to the following year diving into creating a program, and that's where Michaela came in. So if we start with those ideas, one of the things that the board contributed was this notion of what are our core values? Again, the board asked themselves, what is our school district good at? And where can we improve? And so those kind of became questions that we constantly ask ourselves. The core values that they defined in a 90-minute conversation in August of 2016 revolve around the system being student-centered. Every decision needs to be putting students in the middle of what that decision is and asking what's the impact on students. Whether it's a facility decision or a money decision or a program decision, it's about kids and what's the impact going to be. And the second core value, it teases that down a bit into this idea that we can individualize program for students because we're small enough and we can bend our schedule, we can create opportunities for individual students that maybe larger systems wouldn't be able to do. The other piece of that is we want to create a really personalized environment for kids. We want to know who they are, what their interests and talents and skills are, and what their life experiences are, so that we can tailor a program just for them. And that takes getting to know them and knowing their families and knowing what their interests are and what they aspire to be in their future. The third core value is everything that we do should contribute to planning for life after high school. And so we kind of put that at the center. And if it's literacy in the primary grades or beginning career awareness in the intermediate grades or full-on internships in the upper grades, that's really important. We also have to take into account, especially with the pandemic, that there's this social emotional pandemic that's going on as well. It's a mental health crisis that's out there. And I'm sure a lot of rural districts are experiencing these mental health issues. I'm sure suburban and urban districts are as well. And we've done some adjusting of our counseling services and social work services and psychological services to make sure that we have caseloads that are fully equitable K through 12 so that we can both do proactive classroom instruction to help support growth socially and emotionally, as well as be able to get to the crises in a reasonable fashion and triage those issues out so that students get the kind of support they need in a very targeted way. And that's been part of what we're going to invest pandemic dollars in. We're investing in a social worker, we're investing in a psychologist, and we're investing in a counselor to complement the work that we're doing in this college and career readiness area. I talked a little bit about the strengths-based, the talent, skills, interests, life experiences. We believe that when we put that at the center of our thinking about kids and our staff, it creates a higher level of engagement, both for students in that content delivery and skill development, but also in our staff and taking pride in knowing that they have something to contribute to the work. And we're identifying that and asking them, bring that forward and we'll find a way to make it fit so that you can operate from your strengths. And so as we design this system of Agri-STEAM programming and esports and gaming program, we're calling it our specialized programs. And they're the center of this circle where we have satellites all around, and those satellites are the other content areas: English and social studies, math and science, foreign language, and the elective courses. And we're looking to create a system where all of those courses are relevant to these really specialized areas that will help kids see that, wow, what I do in school could actually turn into something where I could earn a living as an occupation later on. And when that happens, they can take ownership of their own academic planning, not just through high school, but into college and beyond. And the last piece that I'll speak to is, in my role, it's important that as the voice of education in our community and a speaker for the school district, that we have a place in the overall landscape of education. And so we believe we're on a path where we're creating a special kind of niche, where we're looking at this in a very holistic way, and we're defining clear college and career readiness pathways so that kids can choose their own pathway on a very individualized basis and get a lot of support in the process. We believe that gives us a tremendous amount of value. And there's a space for that makes us attractive. And we want to attract more folks up onto the Hill, moving into our district and taking advantage of these program opportunities. We've created a brand for our district. We have some taglines like "They are because we are," that came from a valedictory speech in 2018. And that kind of describes how quaint and tight we are as a community in taking care of kids and making sure that they learn well. We also want to reflect the values of the community and what the community is as a demographic. It is a rural community. Folks move there to our communities to have space and to be able to enjoy the nature that's up on the hill. And so we want to reflect that. But we also want to make sure that our kids are ready for the future, and their future, not our past. And so these programs, when we combine the technology with these specialized kind of CTE-oriented programs that come out of ag science and come out of residential construction programs and wiring programs or CAD programs, we really believe that we can prepare them for the future. So we're about 6 years into this work at this point in time. Up to this point, we've kind of created a lot of separate silos of courses and extracurricular clubs, and kids have taken an interest. And we're seeing our ag science enrollment, for instance, has gone from 6 or 7 students to well over 20 students per class. And it's really amazing. We completed a capital project where we designed spaces to feel like college. We designed an Agri-STEAM room in the high school and really a maker space in the elementary school to facilitate this. We added a lot of technology into our buildings, and we see that technology as being a tool and an accelerator to student learning, not just a destination. So we're looking now to systematize all of this work and really make it very simple for kids and parents to understand, and yet we still have a lot of work to do. So I'm going to turn it over to our rock star right now. Michaela Kerrer is our ag science teacher. She's been with us for 5 years. In 5 years, she has put us on the map. We revived a program that went away in 1967. We revived an FFA program to go along with it. Michaela came to us and she asked for a lot of things in that first year. Can I have this? Can I have that? And I just said yes, absolutely, no problem. And 5 years later, she is the New York Association of Agricultural Educators Outstanding Educator of the Year. And at the same time, our secondary program was recognized by that association as a New York State Outstanding Agricultural Education Program in the state. So I'm going to turn it over to her and let her share some of the work that she's done. And so you can take it, Michaela, rock on.
All right, thank you so much. As Dr. Mendel had said, I am the agri-science teacher at Berne-Knox-Westerlo, and we are in year 5 and running. It did start as a result of the survey that Dr. Mendel had touched on earlier that he had done with the community and students, and there was a real need for education opportunities that tied into agriculture. That is our roots in this region, as well as the outdoors. We have a lot of kids that are really into wildlife and natural resources, and that was a great way to connect with them. So the first thing I want to talk about is that there's a big diversity of classes that we offer in a given year. I teach a wide variety of things, such as animal science, large animal science, small animal care, pre-veterinary science, food systems, agricultural business, floral design and landscaping. There are several other classes, but there's a diversity there. There's a lot of opportunities for all different types of students and student learners, as well as we offer things that are like embedded science credit. So for the student that needs the 3rd non-lab science credit, they can take some of the animal science classes for that. Floral design and landscaping can count as one of the art credits the students need for graduation requirements. We also offer several classes. 4 of my classes offer SUNY Cobleskill College and the high school credits. They can get 3 credits per those 4 classes, or they can graduate if they take all 4 classes with pretty much a semester of school underneath their belt, which is pretty exciting with 12 college credits. The biggest thing that when we started this program, I knew that agriculture science can be, it can be costly. There's a lot of consumable things that we need to use. And I really wanted to have a sustainable mindset. So that having been said right out the gate, I made it a personal goal to make sure that we were offsetting some costs utilizing grant funding. To this date, we have over $70,000 that we have earned for this program to help support the program. And that comes from things like Cornell Agricultural Education Outreach. Also, the Albany Soil and Water Conservation District has provided us with a high tunnel on campus and supported funding for some community garden stuff, as well as supporting infrastructure on our U-High nature trail on campus, which is utilized from grades pre-K all the way through 12. The grant helped to provide bridges and walkways in areas that weren't navigatable for a little while. And students actually built those through the technology department. And some of the signage was actually designed by my wildlife and natural resources class. So we do a lot of cross-curricular collaboration, which I'm super proud of in this program. Another thing that I'm really excited about is that we work really hard to be somewhat sustainable in the classes that we offer as far as projects that go along with them. So for instance, the floral design and landscaping class, we have done things like Thanksgiving flower arrangement sales, and we've done wreath sales around the holidays. Valentine's Day is right around the corner. So today in class, we were basically marketing and figuring out, okay, the marketing process, what do we need to price these things at, the price point? How do we figure out the business aspect of it as far as like ordering things? How much do we need to order? You know, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of cross-curricular connections. The students, some of the funding comes from those student products. So they make the products and we sell them out of here. And that money goes back in to support more projects in the future through that floral design class. We also have chickens on campus that we hatched out in the animal science class. And those hens are laying eggs. And we are using those eggs sometimes in our food service program And we also utilize some of the produce that's produced in the high tunnel and the community garden in our food service program here, as well as during the summertime when we don't have students on campus, we actually send that produce home in the Joshua Backpack program, which is pretty exciting as well. So the kids are doing real world projects, and that is so important. Additionally, when we first started this program, I felt the need to really make sure that we had a strong, what we call an agricultural advisory board. And this is a group of industry members that support the curriculum development process, if you would, and support. They help us to kind of determine what are things that we need to be making sure that we're covering in these classes. Are there opportunities for certifications for some of these students? And how do we take advantage of them? Are there people that should be good guest speakers? Or are there places that we should be making sure that we're taking our students to check out their programming? And we made sure that when we were doing this, that we were using people who were experienced experts in their field. And we made sure that we hit plant science, animal science, agribusiness, ag mechanics, as well as natural resources. Okay, Bonnie, there's an issue with the PowerPoint, hon. Thanks. All right. Additionally, so in addition to the Ag Advisory Board, we recently have been chartered with the National FFA Association to have an alumni association, or Friends of the BKW FFA. And this is a support group that helps to support our FFA chapter, which the FFA is the largest student youth leadership organization in the United States. There are over 670,000 students across the United States, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. And so our group locally make sure that our students are taken care of as far as they help to offset some cost of funds for trips the kids are going on. This year, they're providing us several scholarships for seniors that are graduating and going into agriculture as a field at the college level. We also utilize these people if there's, for instance, there's contests coming up next month, and we have these people come and work with our students as far as watching them do their presentations for their prepared public speeches. Really great opportunity to get community members, alumni members of this program. Year 5, we have students already reaching out and coming back, which is awesome. Also, parents want to be involved, and this provides an avenue for which they can do that as well. Cross-curricularly, I already kind of touched on that, but this program really works on making sure that students see the connection between what they're learning in their core classes. For instance, their science class, their math class, ELA, and the humanities. Like I said before, we were doing math and floral design earlier today. We're constantly doing science experiments and connections in those classes, as well as writing and doing things like advertisements. So we have those connections. I work closely with a lot of the other core teachers as well. And I invite them to come in and actually work alongside of our students in classes at times. Finally, the leadership development opportunities that are available to our students through the FFA. Our students are working with legislators in Albany. We're close to Albany. A lot of times we will get phone calls saying, you know, can you come up during our legislative lobby days during the the Farm Bureau legislative days? Can you come meet with these legislators? It's been an awesome opportunity for the students to meet people who are making decisions on their behalf. Additionally, our students compete. They work with service learning projects to work with the local community members. And finally, the highlight for a lot of our FFA members is they get to go up to Camp Oswegatchie in the Adirondacks, the New York State FFA camp, and they get a chance to do leadership development. They're up in the trees on high ropes courses. They're working together as a team on the low ropes to overcome obstacles. And I'm going to tell you that these students are taking the skills that they're learning through FFA, and they're bringing them back to their sports teams, and they're bringing them back to the classrooms. And these are the students that are getting involved across the board. It's been really exciting to see that. The supervised agricultural experience is the last component, and that's our work-based learning. I'm not going to touch on it too long because Bonnie is going to talk about that. But this is a chance for the students to do internships and to take what they're learning in the classroom and actually apply it to real world situations. I will say that several of our FFA members have had a chance to earn grants through the National FFA Association as well as New York State FFA, and they're earning grants that they can take back and put into their own enterprises. So that's extremely exciting. And I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to share our experiences. And please, if you have questions, I threw a lot of information out, just reach out to me. Thank you so much.
Oh, Tim,
Thank you, Michaela. It's a rock star program, just a rock star program. And then along comes Bill, and much of this is about the technology. And as I mentioned before, the idea that technology is an accelerator of student learning, in meeting kids today where they are in terms of their cognitive development must involve technology, because their brains are wired differently than my brain is at 60 years old. And Bill is really great at engaging students where they are and taking that technology and letting kids run with it, with whatever content he has to offer. Bill was a third grade teacher for many years in our district and a coach, and this year took the huge risk of becoming a secondary technology education teacher. And all of a sudden he has 50 to 70 kids showing up for an esports gaming program. And it's really exciting to watch those kids really engage in a different way. Kids that may not have otherwise been that kind of engaged in their own education. So Bill, I turn it over to you. Thanks for what you're doing, and share with us what has been going on in your room and in your space.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the opportunity. As Dr. Mundell said, I actually had the pleasure of working next door in the elementary school for quite some time. So when I got over here, I knew every little, well, they're bigger now. I knew every kid in the hallway. And it was one of those things that a few years ago, we kind of crossed paths with. As a coach, I know those kids that play sports, and as someone who chaperones different performing arts events, you knew those kids that were in the musicals and band and choir, but there was what we kind of labeled that hidden demographic of kids, those that needed to find that self a place in the district. We have tons of kids up in this rural district that love the ag and the sciences in that department, and those that love to play sports, but there was that middle area that we kind of felt needed to be addressed, and how we could hook those kids to want to come to school and feel that sense of belonging in our building. So esports kind of evolved from just finding that niche that we thought those kids would need and want. And it's grown exponentially, way outside of my perceived thoughts and my first pipe dream since it started. And it worked really well for us too, because we were just kicking it off as the pandemic hit. And it pivoted very easily to a remote system, because kids were playing video games at home and they're already online. And personally, it was great to kind of check in with that with them at home, because that was a tough time for everybody, and a lot of them found solace in going to play video games with their friends. And once I started organizing some stuff online at home, those kids that might not have been checking in as we all tried to figure out and grapple with what does virtual learning look like in the early parts of 2020, then it all started to, those kids would check into video games, and then we can kind of relay that to the other staff that, yeah, everyone's okay there. They're there. They're just, doing what they could do. And it kind of evolved. And thankfully, Dr. Mundell gave me the opportunity to kind of come next door to the big kid world and give myself a little space to stretch out with what we had and what we wanted to do. And realistically exploded. We started with only about 4 or 5 kids in the end of 2019 when our esports program just kind of was testing the water, to now we have over 75 to 80 kids who regularly participate in a form of esports in our district, which, I mean, that's the size of a graduating class. It's pretty massive. And it's growing daily as kids are starting to get over some of the stigmas that come along with it, and some of the things that they were hesitant to jump into, because like, is it for real? Can we really come in there and play video games and after school? Is this something that we're not, like, it's not a trap for something, right? You're not going to lecture us on random things. Once they got that going, they really started to come out in droves and fill our room full of just cool conversations and discussions and things. And as they got comfortable, those discussions could have come up of, how are you doing outside of school, and how are things going on for real? And we noticed that the kids really didn't know how big of a picture esports could be. Personally, I didn't either. I was more of an athletic sports kind of guy as it was. But we started doing research on career paths and things you can do after school. And those kids who kind of were on the trajectory of, I'm going to graduate and I don't really know, to, oh, I could do something here. I could do this. This is kind of neat. Really caused some great conversations to be had. And hopefully, as we move forward with these initiatives, again, that Bonnie's going to talk about hooks more kids into that world of life after high school, finding that place. And then with my new role being in the tech lab, I'm able to connect a lot of those things together into content. My role is kind of unique, which I love. I teach 5th and 6th grade all the way up through 12th. So I start seeing them once every other day in 5th grade, and then daily in 6th, then 7th and 8th as their tech. So once they get me, I can really start to figure out what motivates them, what they want to do, where they want to go, and things like that, and start building off and creating some potential electives down the road. Obviously, with the growth of the esports in our school, we've pushed a video game design and production class for a high school elective. We've added some 3D printers to our tech lab with some new technology, and now that's, the drive is there for kids to be able to take that as a course and learn more to be certified when they leave in 3D printing. And it really started to make some connections between other content areas. I guess as an elementary teacher, you're always used to linking it all together. How does your math lesson roll into your ELA and whatnot? And that's something that I kind of tried to bring into the technology, which wasn't there totally before. They had a lot of really cool stuff going on, but how is it linking to the ELA content, or how are we linking it to, the Agri-STEAM stuff we had going on? And the curriculum kind of evolved already this past semester into next year, into making those connections between the kids where, like a novel engineering unit we're doing in 7th grade, where students are reading some books in ELA, but then the challenges those main characters have, we are in the tech lab engineering and going through the human-centered design process to identify how could they create something that might help the character in that book, applying it to real life skills, whether it's a novel skill, but like real life situations, and then building it in other content areas. We've found that we have some students who have a lot of passion for the motorsports and things like that, and maybe not video games, but realized in our tech lab, we can integrate those together. So it's kind of hard to see, but in the top left picture, in the middle slide there, those are students who are working on bending and fabricating and welding a racing simulator. So the students are building their own driving simulator. They've done the mechanics of it. The bottom has the chairs that we had donated to us from a car that they're going to be using to build. And then with the Arduino, which is a small little computer you have off there to the left, the students in our computer science classes are working on programming and coding those into functioning steering wheels and gas pedals, not gas pedals, electronic pedals, and along those lines. So the students are working together, and generally those that would be more hands-on in the tech lab working with the welding and the cutting are now being forced and thrown into the world of video games to understand the electronics and mechanics and finding how that kind of meshes together. And building off of Michaela's FFA, we had a tractor donated to us through the FFA, which we were able to put our kids to work on and getting that up and running. So they're seeing those connections in different rooms, and to see a kid with a helmet and goggles driving a tractor down the hill of school is kind of fun, and they're all filming it and laughing at it because it's that real life application of how they can put themselves to work and do things in a productive way to impact outside of school. And then same thing going with the 3D printing. We've learned that kids are starting to identify issues in their own environment that they can fix. Our video game controllers here, the wires were bending on the back of the controller, and the kids said we can do something better. And the next day I have a student who brings in a 3D rendering in CAD of a software of a little mount that they could use to hold a video game controller off that fixes that solution. The next day we're working before the driving simulators. We had students create little steering wheels that clip onto the joysticks of a video game controller so they could use just their thumbs in a mini version. And then they're talking about how they have relatives that, have some sort of disability that this might be able to help them play with them better or something. So we're starting to see these naturally grow, these discussions of how we can apply it outside of our bubble. And it's really exciting to see. And it's something that kind of is growing out of this environment that the students are realizing that it's not just come to school, get the information thrown at them, hope it sticks, and then leave. As I talked to Dr. Mundell the other day, I've been in school for 17 years as an educator, and this is the first time I ever had a kid come to me and say, this room better be open later because this is the only reason I came here today. And that was one of those students that was like in that middle ground, found his sense of place. And I told Dr. Mundell, I go, this is probably one of my crowning achievements, I guess, as an educator to this point of saying, I got that kid, that was cool. And that's what I want more of. It's almost like the addictive thing to me now. So I'm like, chasing kids down the hallway saying, what are you playing? Come on, we can find a way to get that in here. How can we do that? And so it kind of keeps growing outside of my realm. I'm quickly outgrowing my space. So I'll also use this as a public forum to ask Dr. Mundell for some more space. So keep that as you go. But it's been kind of neat to see how they grow. And then with myself being in here for the first time in this building, catching up with Michaela and Bonnie and seeing what they have going and seeing how easily what I'm doing could mesh into their programs and how we can get those kids that have that interest to work together and make those connections. And then it's no longer, oh, I'm only here for one class or one room. Now it's like, well, I came for this, but it's also kind of linking into another content area, and I can see how that's kind of cool. And that's kind of fun. I never thought of that. So it really opened up a lot of doors for kids in that capacity from my perspective, and really challenged me, which I find is enjoyable as well, because it's caused me to reinvent myself as an educator and reinvigorated myself to push where I'm not as comfortable and move forward with that. So the esports is where it started, and as far as just getting the kids in the door, but it's grown so exponentially since that's got started that it's becoming more and more powerful than I even envisioned. But going back to the esports, I guess, we're also seeing those students who would go home and play in their own confined spaces coming to school to play because, well, they started out, our internet was a lot faster than what they had at home. And now it's become the social aspect. You know, we regularly have students who come to our lab who just sit on the floor and watch, and they just want to see and be around people who talk about the same concept. And it's a great place for myself to start talking about appropriate interactions of people online and how they're going to do it at home. At least if they're here at school, I can help monitor that. I can help lead them down a path that is a little more appropriate and productive for what they want to do as an end goal. So there's a lot going on, and you know, it's kind of one of those things where we're not as established yet as Michaela is in her path and vision. We're trying to focus it, but the more I focus it, the more I realize I want to keep reaching out, because there's so many other areas that we could pull in together and link it. But it's nice to see that those middle ground kids, that little hidden demographic, is being reached, and they are finding their sense of place. So that's kind of where we're at. Where we're going, I don't know. And that's the part that drew me to technology, is every day it's different. Every day it's something new. And, you know, the kids are constantly coming in with new ideas, and how we move forward is going to be really student driven. That's something that thankfully from the top down in our district is what drives us to do what we do every day. So, you know, thank you to everyone for the chance to speak on that. And as with Michaela, if you have any questions, you can email me. But I'll turn it back over to you, Dr. Mundell. So,
thanks, Bill. I appreciate that. And both Michaela and Bill spoke about you know, that relevance that I spoke of earlier. Somebody once told me about 20 years ago, you know, if reading, writing, and arithmetic were the 3 R's of the 20th century, then relevance, rigor, and relationships are the 3 R's of the 21st century. And so as you hear Bill talk about reaching kids, and Michaela about reaching kids with something that interests them, that's both relevance and the relationship piece. The unique thing that's happening in our specialized programming is we have high-level college-bound students taking the same classes as kids who might be going to a VOTEC CTE program, or might be going to the military after high school. And what's happening is they're learning from one another about how to approach problems, how to see things differently, how to be innovative in their critical thinking about how to solve those problems and advance their coursework or their project or whatever they're doing. And so they're learning from one another, and that is the definition of rigor. It's not just giving them a harder math problem to do or more math problems to do, but it's how to see the world differently so that we can find different solutions to different problems. And I think that's really, really cool. And the thinkers that we have here, I'm really fortunate to work with them, because they bring this to life in the classroom every day. What I found is, as we've nurtured all of this kind of spontaneous evolving work, I can't do it all by myself, and I needed someone to kind of be the catch basin. And so that's where Bonnie comes in. And Bonnie had completed an administrative program, 2 summers ago, and was ready to dip her feet into the water of coordinating things. And so I thought it would be a really good way to invest some of that pandemic funding into a role for a defined period of time and charge her with the responsibility of threading all of these pieces together and doing curriculum work with the content area teachers and networking with business partners for building an internship program where kids would have spaces to go out into the community and do some internships, work-based learning. And so she's been active in those areas this fall. She began this role as College and Career Readiness Coordinator on July 1st. She's been extremely active in working with the staff and with kids. And I'd like to turn it over to her right now to talk about some of that work and how that kind of brings all of this work together into some sort of system. Bonnie?
Thank you, Dr. Mundell. First of all, I have to say that it is absolutely a pleasure to work with a group of teachers who I work with every day, not just Bill and Michaela, but elementary and secondary teachers. The energy in both buildings is absolutely palpable, and the desire to enhance the student experience and engage all learners is absolutely incredible and inspiring. So in starting my role on July 1st, I kind of thought of the best way to try and offer opportunities to students. And the old English teacher in me wants to start with a little anecdote just to kind of give you some background. One of my first internship students was actually a student who was a high honors student in AP courses, in honors courses. Wonderful kid, never has been any sort of disciplinary issue. And I read his internship proposal. Every student has to create an internship proposal who's planning on doing an internship. And I got about halfway through and his proposal absolutely floored me. It was through his proposal that I found out that this student actually, in traditional education, in his traditional classes, found absolutely no connection between the courses he was taking in school and what he wanted to do later on in life. And I found out later on through his proposal that he was actually at one point considering quitting school because he didn't find the value in it and thought he'd be better served in entering the workforce instead. Again, honor student, student who was doing absolutely everything right, a student who you would say in any other terms was an absolute success story in the traditional education system, but who felt completely unengaged with his coursework. That student has since won awards and grants and has started his internship and has done an absolutely outstanding job and feels completely engaged in his coursework now because he sees a pathway between what he's doing in school and what he plans to do post-secondary. One of the major things that we've done so far this year with students in grades 5 through 12 is to create digital portfolios. And those digital portfolios essentially allow students to present themselves as a learner. It helps them to highlight their interests, their talents. It helps them to be reflective learners. It helps them to showcase their talents far more than any standardized test could end up doing. What we found with these digital portfolios is that we've created them with grade level teachers to be developmentally appropriate on all grade levels from 5 to 12. We found that students are actually taking their own time to design these digital portfolios the way that they really feel they can best design them, and add in things that they are doing outside of school as well. So it's really a picture of the entire learner and has been highly engaging to our students. I can't tell you how many students come up to me during the day and they're like, did you look at my portfolio? Go look at my portfolio link. I uploaded some things this weekend. I want you to see them. So it's so refreshing to see that students have engaged in and invested in something that's representative of themselves. Once students reach their senior year of high school in the second half of the year, we'll actually release these digital portfolios to students so that they can present them to future employers, colleges, anywhere that they may be able to get scholarships for colleges, things like that. They are for student use. So that's been another engagement and investment point for students to really put a lot of time and energy into these digital portfolios. Another thing that we've been working on in grades 5 through 12 is creating multi-grade level learning opportunities for students. These are large scale learning opportunities. They take a tremendous amount of investment through teachers. They require grade level teacher planning, multidisciplinary planning, and then reflective outcome planning. What are we going to do next time? How are we going to engage students from here on out? And then probably the biggest thing that I've been working on is creating community partnerships, not just within our Hill Towns communities, but also now with the digital age, we're able to kind of expand that out to other communities as well, to offer our students the most opportunities that we possibly can. We've partnered with Harvard University and Proving Ground to bring in monthly career speakers for students. This is a program we're currently piloting with our 9th grade cohort, but something that I can certainly see we would branch out with for every grade level. These career speakers not only speak about their individual paths to careers, but also give our students advice on how to obtain those careers in the future. We've also been able to bring in career professionals to do hands-on work with our students. Just as an example, Ms. Care's floral design class regularly has florists come in, create a recipe with students, and then work hands-on with our students to create professional bouquets, boutonnieres. I can't tell you how many things they've worked on. But for students to have access to a professional in the field not only exposes them to the career, but it also is inspiring to them that their teachers are willing to find someone within that specific career field who has an interest in our students. Internships is another big point for those community partnerships. As of this year, we have grown the internship program by 400%. We have students in just about every industry of internship. If we cannot place a student in a particular internship that they may be interested in, we try to push them or place them in a closely related field. And with those internships, we've been able to offer student certification programs and continuing education programs. Just to give you an example, one of our latest internships has been with a wildlife rehabilitator in the area. And through that process, we were able to learn that students over the age of 16 are actually eligible to get their wildlife rehabilitator's licensure free of charge. And actually, we just found out it's an online exam too. So our students will be taking advantage of that opportunity. And for all of the students who are doing internships in that area, that's a tremendous career opportunity for them and will serve them very well down the road. So those are the 3 major things that I've been working on in my role this year, working with Michaela and Bill and grade level teachers, just to offer students as many opportunities as we possibly can to engage them and to show them the value of investing in themselves now for their careers later on. I believe my contact information is below. I apologize, my screen sharing for some reason shut off. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at any point.
Bonnie, thank you. And just as a last point of emphasis, if this is about student opportunities and what schools do to help kids reimagine education, reimagine their own education and own their own education, there's a pathway for every kid. And we believe that as a small district, we can create that pathway and meet them at their point of interest and talent. and life experience. And some examples of that, we're learning more and more now that our alumni, as they have gone to college and have had their transcripts reviewed, are learning from the college admissions office that they'll be able to graduate in 3 years because of the number of college credit-bearing courses they were able to take. Over the past 6 years, we've added 15 additional courses that carry college credit that students may choose to pursue the college credit or not. We have a total of 23 courses in our program guide that carry college credit opportunity for kids. We currently have seniors this year. I'm thinking of 7 or 8 particularly that have taken more than 5 and several of them 10 college credit bearing courses. That's a full year of college credit. That's a significant life-changing cost basis for those families and those students. And at the same time, the kids that are in the FFA program have traveled to Indianapolis for the National FFA Conference and have been in the presence of federal secretaries in the cabinet of the president and in the presence of a president of the United States of America. Experiences that for kids up on the Hill in an isolated on the Hill existence otherwise would not have. And so those kinds of opportunities have the chance to have them think about their future differently than they would otherwise. And so we're really just very excited to have this resource, this federal resource, where we can invest in this work that's already been going on and move it forward and create sustainability so that it really becomes a whole system. And again, I want to thank Bill and Michaela and Bonnie for their minds around this. They're not the only 3. We have quite a number of staff members who just carry this energy and growth mindset and come to work every day with kids at the center and looking for ways to help them create their own pathway forward while making a really comfortable learning environment. So with that, I'll close it. Kelly, I want to thank you. Jerry, thank you for facilitating this. We appreciate the opportunity to share. My contact information is there at the end of the slides as well. Please, anyone out there, feel free to contact us. We always love to engage in the conversation about providing opportunities for kids. So thank you.
Jerry, if you don't mind, I just wanted to make a couple quick comments. So I'm so incredibly impressed with everything that I heard. I don't know what's more evident to me, like the stories of how you know your students so well, each and every one of them. Bill, how you said you kind of followed them from the middle school or elementary school all the way up, and you know so much about these kids that you're able to actually personalize the education to know where they are to meet their needs. But the enthusiasm that all of you share is just so evident that it's just like so nice to hear right now, these positive things that are taking place. So I really appreciate it. I feel like I need to come up on the hill. I didn't realize, which is really probably bad, that BKW was on a hill. But there's so many great things taking place. At some point, I'd love to take the time to come out and visit and maybe meet some of the staff when the COVID rates aren't as high potentially. But thank you so much for doing this for us.
The doors are open, Kelly. Anytime you want to come up, you're always welcome.
Great, Kelly, I'll be joining you on that visit. Wonderful presentation. And it really is evident how passionate you are about the work that you're doing and the lives that you're changing. The fact that you've invested these dollars in creating an academic enriched environment and opportunities for your students is just commendable. And I need to say that I'm just so impressed with today's presentation. I truly am being honest when I say when Kelly visits, I'll be coming. I'd love to see it in action. I want to thank you all for your dedication to your students and their learning and your continued efforts to stay engaged with them beyond their K-12 experience. So, which really, it just strengthens and enhances the community. And it also shows your dedication to your profession of teaching. And so thank you all for today's presentation. It will be available in our edTrends library for those individuals who'd like to revisit it again, or if you would like to share it with colleagues. I wish you all health and happiness, and until next week on edTrends, good night.